Holy cow. Old Mom Monday night. Have kind of a different topic tonight. I was reading, well, always reading something, and somebody sent me this. And last night I was talking about these two lawsuits that I was sued for defamation. And we were talking about when you do something wrong and someone talks about it and then you sue them for defamation. Both cases were thrown out. It's telling of the person, right? And so this case, a Catholic school in Ohio, has gotten itself in a real mess. And it just seemed like the kind of story I would want to cover. And it's not as much, so I'll go back. Let me find my notes. Not as much for what happened, because there's all sorts of stuff that happens all the time, but because of what didn't happen. And so this topic, or the statement, boys will be boys, it's just boys being boys, teenage boy antics, right? We hear this, it's a boy. I have 3 boys and 1 daughter. And I've been known to say that myself. Oh, it's just a boy, you know. But it usually has to do with like food plates in the room and like gross wet bathing suits, like in a suitcase. If I'm echoing, then you probably need to go out and come back in. So Ursuline High School is a Catholic high school within the Diocese of Youngstown in Ohio. And on June 12th, the football team, which was at the time ranked number 11 in this top 25 SI poll, they were taking this 9-day trip. And they were going to go to Auburn. They did go Auburn, Alabama, Florida State, Disney, University of Tennessee, and a couple other schools in there. 3 coaches and 41 players. 8 nights. And every night, different players were put into different hotel rooms. And the idea, let me let the dog in. The idea with that is that, according to the coach, it builds camaraderie. So there's that. So this happens on June 12th. Well, for 8 nights, hazing allegedly occurred. Last week, on Tuesday, a 200-page federal civil rights lawsuit was filed against the high school, administrators, football coaching staff, several members of the football team, and their parents. 11 players were named in this lawsuit, and they didn't use their names, but they numbered them. So you might have player 1, 5, 7, 21, but you don't know their names. A member of the football team was a freshman, heads out on the trip, and says he was assaulted. And it sounds like he was, to me. And not only was he assaulted, but that it was videoed and then shared in their Snapchat group chat, as well as to other people. So this is all in the lawsuit. And he let his mother know that this happened on June 12th. So he leaves on June 12th they left. So it was a few days into the trip. I think day 4 or 5 into the trip. She called, texted the coach and said, hey, this is happening. And it was there was not an emergency situation. No proper chaperone. Yeah, that's a weird thing. No, I can either see or not see, depending on if I have my glasses on. On June 13th, Coach Reardon, so you have the main coach, who's Coach Reardon. I'll let you see who we got, who our players are in this little scenario here. Let's see. I don't know if we can see them all or not. So we have Coach Reardon in the middle, and then we got the principal over here. And this fancy looking fella, that is Coach Christian. Yeah, I love his belly button in that picture. And then we have, this is the assistant principal. She might be the only person that said, when she was shown these recordings by the mother, I'm getting ahead of myself, she was like, this is bad. So at least she acknowledged it. This is the principal here, to get out of the way. The principal, well, we'll get to him later. This is the belly button coach. And then we have, this is another coach. This is McGlynn. So this is who the mom first reached out to, was Coach McGlynn. And then this is our head coach here, Coach Reardon. Reardon. We'll keep Coach Reardon up there for a minute. So anyway, on June 13th, Coach Reardon sent a text at 9:52 p.m. to a group of 3 or 4 football players. They were in room 308, and the text said this: "We already got a complaint about the noise coming from your room. Figure it out." He didn't go down there to check on the boys. He didn't ask what was happening. Nothing. According to the player that brought this case on, the freshman, and I will think it's important to say, since this civil lawsuit came out, I think the lawyer said there were 2 more students that came out. There was this daily conversation on the bus on this road trip about, they called it taking butts. Means stripping, degradation, humiliation, being forced to fight. According to one player on the bus, when the conversation about taking butts was being held, Coach Christian, also father of player number 21, who is named in the lawsuit, admonished, "Don't say that stuff to me. I don't want to hear it. Don't say that stuff to me. I don't want to hear it." So you have hazing that's allegedly happening, and you have a coach that says, "I don't want to hear it." So why does this stuff happen? You know, you might say, well, it's boys being boys. But I would argue it's adults being crappy adults, right? Because a normal adult would be like, we're not doing that. And I have a son who's a senior in high school, and he plays on the soccer team. And he's not the best soccer player on the planet. He's new to the school this year after being gone a few years, but he loves being on the team. And he really likes the coach. And the coach is a good coach. And he's hard and he's tough and he takes no prisoners. I promise you that when the coach says run, those boys run. And if this coach said, instead of saying, "Don't say that stuff to me, I don't want to hear it," if he had said, "If you do something like that, I'm going to have your butt," that would have ended it. So in this case of boys being boys, you have adults, to me, being crappy adults. And we're going to kind of get in. So when you say, well, what's hazing? What was actually happening? I'm going to read a little bit of the lawsuit to you because I think it's important, and it's kind of horrifying, to be honest. And I'm only telling you this because it's hard to understand how something like this happens. Players 4 and 5 came to Son's room for his initiation. Terrified of what might happen, he hid in a closet. Player 5 opened the closet, grabbed him by the throat, and pulled him out of the closet. Player 4 grabbed him and threw him on the bed face up, and then Player 4 grabbed Son's shorts and tried to pull them off. Son grabbed his shorts to prevent Player 4 from pulling them off. While Son was on his back, Player 4 lifted Son's legs in the air with his penis erect and visible through his clothes. Player 4, with a repeated thrusting motion, ground into and humped Son's buttocks over Son's shorts. Player 1 video recorded the attack and posted it onto the team's group Snapchat, causing an interstate wiring in communication. That was day 1. So you have your freshman in high school, new to the football team, and he goes on a road trip, and that's day 1. That's June freaking 12th. Day 2, they go to Auburn all day to do a football camp. Throughout the day, in front of defendant coaches Reardon, McGlynn, and Cyranudis, several players ridiculed this boy for the prior night's attack and the video. Several other players repeatedly hit him in the head and told him he was going to get his butt took again that night at the hotel. That night, he lay in bed in terror, but he was not targeted for another attack. Based on information and belief, other players were attacked that night. That night, Player 4 posted videos to the team's group Snapchat of Player 8 issuing a warning and instructing several other players in the hotel room. You know what happens when blank talk SHIT. Do not. That night, Coach Reardon, the manager of the hotel, just told me he got a complaint of too much noise. This is the only warning you will get. The whole team will be punished if I get another complaint. No one was ever punished. No one was ever punished. And you know what's interesting about Coach Reardon? And we're going to, some breaking news came out this afternoon. Coach Reardon's son was a freshman on the football team. And do you know what room he stayed in? Was he building camaraderie? No. No, he wasn't. He stayed in his dad's room. Stayed in his dad's room. Seemingly the whole trip. Why did Coach Reardon not want his son to have camaraderie? Why? That's all I needed to know. On day 3, they go to the University of Alabama. Throughout the day, the players continued to ridicule the son, hit him in the head, threatened he's going to get his butt took. Again, 3 coaches were present, heard the threats, and did nothing. That night, Player 5 was ridiculed. Player 5's clothes were ripped off, and they took the picture of the underpants, torn underpants, and threw them down a stairwell and said, R.I.P. He stayed in the room, shaking, terrified, and humiliated. Within minutes, other players who had seen the video posted entered it and ridiculed him. On day 5, he tells his mother about the attack. He scared to ask her, please do not tell please don't tell anybody, Mom. And I will say, as a mother, there is nothing worse, and I've never had anything happen like this, but we've had some issues over 4 kids over the years. There's nothing worse than your child confiding in you and asking you not to tell, right? And she didn't call. She did not call. He asked her not to call, and she didn't. He was worried if she calls. Probably in hindsight, she wished she had gotten in the car and gone to pick him up. Which, note to self, let's all take a lesson from that. But that the son and another player went to Target to get away from everybody. Well, the coach, McGlynn, calls the mom and says, I can't get in touch with your son. So she calls him and says, well, he's at Target, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you all this that's happening. He didn't express, according to the filing, he didn't express surprise, dismay, or sympathy or remorse. He tried to downplay what occurred and made excuses like there being 41 players on the trip and only 3 coaches. McGlynn even went so far as to pronounce It's just boys being boys. Take butts, taking butts, boys being boys. The mother said, she said to him, "Need I remind you that hazing is highly illegal and dangerous?" And he said, "They do not condone hazing," which is clearly a lie. And she said, "Well, then I guess I'm going to have to, when I pick him up, I'm going to confront the players that did this, and I'm going to have to report it to school leadership." And he said, "Well, the school is crazy. They'll just tell you to go back where you're from, you know, like it's not a big deal." Whew. This is how my blood pressure starts going up. Oh, sorry. So I'm going to move away back from the affidavit, to the civil lawsuit, back to my own notes. So she gets back, she shows this video to the principal and the vice principal, and they were cool as cucumbers. The assistant principal, the woman, did say this is bad, but the principal, she said, "Would you like to see the video?" He was like, "You can email it to me." I mean, that is balls to the wall, right? You can email it to me. Talk about trying to act like you're tough. This is in June. What happens? Nothing. Football went on as usual. A few players transferred. The victim and his sister both changed schools. She was being harassed at her workplace. They both had to change schools. Is this high school? Yes, this is high school in Youngstown, Ohio, a Catholic high school. Finally, this past Friday night, the game was canceled. Ursuline High School canceled Friday's game. So you have Daniel Reardon, head coach, Timothy McGlynn, vice coach. You have Principal San Martino, and then you have the vice principal. If anybody was questioning, in the handbook for the school, page 65, Code of Conduct Expulsion Provisions, serious misbehavior that results in court proceedings, use of violence, force, threat, coercion, or other aggressive behavior that threatens safety and well-being of others at school. The civil lawsuit also says that the high school provided 2 fraudulent statements as the form of press releases where they called these attacks an isolated incident involving a limited number of players, which we actually know there were at least 25 people involved, including 11 or 12 assailants. You had multiple witnesses and victims. Here's what the high school says. The safety and well-being of our students is the high school's top priority. Ursuline parents can and should feel confident that their sons and daughters are in a safe environment every day. To that end, we want to highlight the steps we've taken in regard to the allegations about the football program. The statement continued, after the students and coaches returned from the trip in question, one family made a formal report to the school alleging misconduct. So there's where the lie begins. It actually happened on the trip. Once informed, the administration timely opened an investigation. Immediately after, diocesan representatives and local authorities were notified. Both Ursuline and the Diocese of Youngstown continue to fully cooperate with the authorities' investigation, which is ongoing. The school noted that disciplinary actions against some of the students most directly involved were imposed under policies. Some students left the school before discipline could be imposed. Once the coaches became aware of information that this kind of misbehavior and this kind of hazing and sexual assault are going on, they should put a stop to it immediately, said the attorney, Chandra, who is representing the victim's family. The complaint alleges that they didn't even go in and check on the boys when the activity was going on, and there are multiple text messages throughout that support those allegations. In addition, once the school administrators became aware, they should have immediately launched their own investigation. They had an independent obligation to discipline players and discipline their own employees, the coaches, and they have failed to do so. For those reasons, the combination of misconduct, malfeasance, and the nonfeasance alleged here is extremely serious. Nevertheless, the suit alleges the school did not investigate the matter or take any disciplinary action until today. So today, the head coach, Reardon, whose son stayed in the room with him, has been suspended for an indeterminate period, and the two assistant coaches have been placed on administrative leave. So just since this morning, or since this afternoon, I shared this morning, we've got suspended, we've got suspended, and we have suspended. Michael Frasco, a longtime assistant coach that clearly was not on the trip, is going to be the interim head football coach for the rest of the season. There have been no decisions regarding renewal of contracts or future employment. So there you have it. That quickly in a day, they've done probably what they needed to do, right? And so if they hadn't filed that civil lawsuit, so there's the problem. Like, one, I think you actually can make things not happen by being a good adult and a coach and saying, these are the rules and this is what we do and this is what we don't do. And I don't care if it's girls or boys. Anything sexual is not only horrible, it is a felony. I mean, this is not, when you start sending videos on Snapchat, like, you could go to jail for long periods of time. And so this is why we need adults and we need supervision. The players could be charged, yes, with child pornography, crossing state lines, using wiretapping. I mean, this is not a joke. Yes, people were told not to talk about it. If adults had just been adults, it wouldn't have happened. And if it did happen, because every once in a while you're going to have a good adult and you're going to have a kid that makes a bad decision. If something had been done about it that night, if the mother says this is what happened and the coach actually gave a shit, McGlynn, and said what's happening, but it seems to me that it seems like he knew, right? So he didn't ask any questions, what's happening. He didn't send a text to anybody and say, you better knock off whatever's happening and we're going to have a big conversation. You know, there was no text like that. 200-page complaint, not one text that says, cut the shit out, right? This high school is super big on football. They take it very seriously, hence the lack of compassion. Yeah, you could tell that. And But if the mother had been able to say, like the case in West Virginia, when the children with special needs were abused, when the mother went to the school and said, my daughter was abused, if the school had done anything, there probably wouldn't have been a civil lawsuit. Like if this school had done what they were supposed to be, we are horrified by what you said. We are going to get to the bottom of this. I promise you, this is not happening. This is not okay. There is nothing about this. We're suspending all the coaches while we find out. We are on it. It wouldn't have gotten to this far, you know? They were hoping they could get through football season. And they did get through. I mean, it happened in June. It's now September 8th. The lawsuit got filed last Tuesday. Friday, there was no game. Today, it takes a few days for stuff to hit national news. Tonight, I saw it was on Fox News. I put it up, not that I'm any national star, but the stuff gets out. Then you look really stupid. Like, how can you have someone who you know sent this text coaching football practice? You can't. And I mean, the Catholic Church, do they need this? And is this not telling that, like, you can't say it's an isolated incident? The Catholic Church struggles, and it ain't any isolated incident. I mean, think of all the priests and all the abuse that happened. And because people knew and did nothing. They knew and did nothing. I mean, it's like dominoes, right? Like this kind of way of handling situations and activity just seeps into everything. Yes, they were mandatory reporters. Absolutely, Cheryl. They were mandatory reporters. Yes, they were. I think you've lost the ability to play football this year. And I'm sorry that there are people that act good, but there were all those varsity players, those players knew what happened on that trip. And at that point, and how do you talk to your kids about this? Like, that's such an important part of the conversation. How do you go to your mom and say, boy, I saw some horrible things on that trip, and I don't want to be a part of a football team that's doing this? A few students transferred. Did they transfer because they were bad, or did they transfer because they thought these people were nuts? Maybe both. Maybe both. And so not just tell me if something happens to you, but how do you tell your child, tell me if you see something happen to somebody else? Do not bring up the Catholic Church. Well, I will bring up the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church is known, correct me if I'm wrong, for having a tremendous amount of cover-up when it comes to sexual abuse, right? According to the Pope. And you're right, it does happen in other churches, but I mean, here's a guy, the Church of England, John Smith, abused more than 100 children, died in 2018 in Cape Town. 100 children. 100 children. The Catholic Church is horrible at sexual abuse, and I am Catholic. Well, there's that. It's serious. Did any of this happen on campus? Nothing in this civil suit happened on campus. other than the fact that when the mom went to the principal and assistant principal, that they were like, she's like, would you like to see the video? You can just email it to me, said the principal. So it makes you wonder, should the principal be suspended? I don't know. Did he do what he was supposed to be doing right? Did he? I don't know that either. Doesn't seem like it to me. How would you respond if your Episcopal church was generalized? Well, it wouldn't be true. So if you generalize something about my church that was true, I would be okay with it because it's true. It is true about the Catholic Church. There is a history there. It's like saying, you know, Germany wasn't nice to Jewish people. Doesn't mean it's now, but it happened. You know, you can't, just because it, you know, hurts your feelings doesn't mean that you can argue about it. That's part of the problem too. Like, people get hung up on dumb shit like that instead of like just paying attention to what's happening, you know? I think. And the other people that are dangerous are parents who say things like boys will be boys, or people are soft, or this, that, and the other, you know. My dad would have never put up. Exactly. And a good football coach wouldn't put up with this. So there's that. There's that. Anyway, be an adult. Talk to your children about what they see and what they do, and talk to your coaches. It makes me think, boy, before I let my children go on a trip with a bunch of coaches, would I have a discussion? Would there be a parent meeting? Yeah. What are the rules? I want to hear you say that, you know, out loud to everybody here. What are the rules? Have you been drinking? No, but I wish I were. Anyway, if you are watching this video and like it, you can double click to like it. If you have not subscribed to Tales of an Educated Debutante on YouTube, I hope you will. We never know what we're going to talk about. If you're a paying member, we do coffee chats in the morning, and those are good. And tomorrow, I don't know what we're going to be talking about. Usually we do Old Mom Monday night. Maybe we'll do Old Mom Tuesday night instead. But thanks for being here and for caring and paying attention and knowing that adults really have so much power and control to help our kids do the right thing. Hey, Nancy Stewart. Or the wrong thing, you know? And boy, like, we wonder, what kind of humans are we raising? You know, what really matters? Good humans. And I'm guilty of, you know, I get worried about college essays and this, that, and the other, but like, holy cow, good humans. Tomorrow night, maybe we're going to get to college applications this week. I'm seemingly not an expert, but I have a lot of opinions and thoughts, which are basically worth nothing. So there's that. Goodbye.